Hello and welcome to Stay Paid, the sales and marketing podcast from ReminderMedia, where we talk about actionable ideas to help grow your business so you can live a life of freedom tomorrow, but only if you take action today. My name is Joshua Stike, Vice President of Marketing here at ReminderMedia, and I'm here with Luke Acree, President of ReminderMedia.
And I am excited. I'm at an 11 out of 10. See, they can't even handle me right now. I've had a couple monsters. We're going to talk about cold calling today. Anyways, go ahead, Josh.
And today, we are once again joined by our Director of Sales, Nick Bianco. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Thanks
Yes,
for having
welcome.
me. Just cleaned up a little bit. I got a haircut today.
He's looking pretty good right now.
So our topic, as Luke said, is going to be the necessary and sometimes dreaded cold call. It has been a staple in the sales industry for years and is one of the most effective methods of prospecting, but it takes a large amount of patience and skill, and let's face it, a lot of luck. But there are ways to improve your odds in this numbers game called cold calling, and today we are going to walk through a framework for success as we go through what to do before the call, what to do making the calls,
Yes.
and finally what to do after the calls.
And all of those three things better lead back to you closing a deal.
Absolutely.
The purpose of everything you're doing is to generate a sale. Here's what to get my rant off my chest, because you say dreaded cold call. And every time I hear dreaded cold call, what it makes me think of, and I know
Triggers you.
Yeah, it triggers me. It peeves me, if that's a word. Grant Cardone talks about, cold calling is only dead because you suck at it. The reason why people hate cold calling so much is because the same reason why you hate public speaking. Why do you hate public speaking? People, what is it? People would prefer to die than to public speak.
Right.
Isn't that what the statistics
It's
shows?
number one fear is public speaking. Number two is dying.
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah.
Number two is dying.
Yeah.
People would rather die than public speak. You could put cold calling up there. Why? Because you're scared to public speak because you don't do it a lot. You're untrained. You're getting up there. You're nervous. And where that fear comes from is I always say this, it comes from lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge comes from lack of preparation. Lack of preparation. Killing me now. Lack of preparation comes from lack of effort. Why you don't like cold calling? When you really, really boil down to the brass tacks of it, yes, we don't like doing work, but the point is you don't like it because you're untrained at it. Because trust me, we have grown a multi-million-dollar organization, and a huge differentiator for us, a huge component of what we've done to drive success has been cold calling. I went out to eat with our recruiter today for lunch. And we were talking about how we've had success recruiting and how we're getting more recruiters. And he has a following on LinkedIn. And he gets people that reach out to him all the time, and they ask him, hey, how are you doing such a good job? The firms are asking him, recruiting firms are asking us, corporate America, how are we doing such a good job at recruiting people? And he said, the only thing I can think of, man, is that we're actually willing to call every resume. Yep. We call every resume.
Well, most people are what, emailing back?
Yeah, most people email. He says, and I tell him, I go, every recruiter's sending an email. We pick up the phone and we cold call the people. We call them because their resume's online. They put it on Monster, and we want to let them know who we are. And that's been the differentiator for us. And so my rant to get off my chest very early is, guys, trust me. I know I might be preaching a little bit here, but the point being is, listen to this podcast right now. Check out our resources because we can help you. We truly, truly can help you get trained, and that train will reduce that fear. Because when you have altitude or authority on a subject matter, you can talk about it all day. You have no fear. But you have fear walking into the cold call because you're untrained at it. So with that rant being said, Nick, welcome to the podcast.
We have a better rant.
We have Nick on the podcast because this guy is not only an incredible salesman in his own right, but this is what he does every single day. I guess, Nick, give him a little bit of kind of what you're running right now, your day-to-day, why we have you on for cold calling.
Can I tag onto your rant for a second?
Absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing is the reason that we're doing so well right now, and we've been able to grow our floor, and I want to touch on what we've been able to do over the past couple of years, is that everybody's waiting for businesses to come to them.
Yeah.
And so with Facebook ads and SEO now, everybody's waiting for that lead to come in, and then I'll call that lead once it's qualified. And the people that are out there hustling every day, they're the ones that are making money. And so what we've really been able to do over, what do you say, 6 years?
Yes.
Past 6 years, we've been able to grow our sales floor, really our inside sales floor that's cold calling people, to about 65 reps. Mm-hmm. Started 6 years ago. There was about 4 of us that were doing it. We embraced it. We really tried to get specific with the best ways to do it. We were open to trying new things. And now we got 65 reps out on our floor that are
making 150, 200 calls a day.
They love it every day, but they certainly like it. They like it a lot. And they're making 150,
but remember,
200 calls a day.
Here's a point I would make. right, is that if you're watching this right now or listening to this and you don't like cold calling, that's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. Meaning, like, I don't wake up every day as a maniac going, I can't wait to call somebody that doesn't know me right now. I just cannot wait. Oh, it's the best thing ever. I don't do that. But the point being is that I'm willing to overcome that awkwardness or that pain or that fear of rejection because I know the results that it will bring. 65 callers that do cold calling every day out there, they're willing to overcome that fear and that awkwardness. When you think of your own business and your own life, if you wake up every day and go, I don't enjoy cold calling, that's okay. The majority of successful people in their careers have not necessarily enjoyed the idea of calling someone out of the blue, but they do it anyways because it drives results. So I just don't want to make someone feel like, how are these psychos like enjoying cold calling? It's not that we wake up every single day and just cannot wait to get on the phones. But the point is, we know it drives success.
Yeah.
So how does it drive success? And that's what this ebook we're writing is all about.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you've identified one of the first things to do as we look at before the call, and that's identify and recognize the fact that, you might be scared. Yeah, you might not want to do this, but you know what you're aiming for, and we go back to that 5-second rule. Count down from 5, and when that timer hits 0, dial that number.
It's corny, but it's true.
Do it. And if you're prepared, which I think is what we'll talk about here before the call, how to kind of be prepared. You have that guiding light. You know what you're going for. You know the script or the framework you're working off of. So I know another thing kind of before the call that and like you mentioned, we're putting together an ebook that will be released soon that really digs deep into a lot of the research and everything that we've done behind this, not only from our own experience, but outside research. One of the biggest things that, Nick, I know we're coaching our sales team is to have the emotional intelligence, right? And to understand that you have to possess an emotional connection with the person you're calling. So do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really hard subject to coach. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics that go into it. And so the biggest thing for our reps is understanding that you're picking up the phone and you're calling a total stranger. They don't know what's happening when the phone rings. Most of the time with our prospects that we're reaching out to, when they see that unknown number, they're thinking it might be a lead for them in their business. And then we let them down and go, hey,
that's why we have good answer rates.
Exactly. So really understanding the dynamic of that call, what's the emotions going on with the prospect,
right?
And then being able to like kind of curtail, understand your emotions to control that call. And I think that starts with the prep work. Confidence is really the number one thing. I mean, it starts with making sure you're prepared, making sure you're practicing, making sure you understand what you're going to get hit with the second that somebody answers that phone. And I think so there's a couple things that tie into emotional intelligence. For me, it's kind of, like I said, confidence. I think you got to be passionate about what you're doing. Main thing you said is you don't have to love it. We're not crazy. I mean, on a Monday, they're not coming in after a weekend, our reps, and they're not, dying to get on the phone and make cold calls right now. But you got to be passionate about why you're doing it and understand
your mission.
Why you're doing
your
it.
Passion, the cold calling is a tool or a way a means to the end that you're seeking. Meaning your mission, your why, that's what's going to drive your passion. So your why might be helping people find their dream home, right? It's very corny or simplistic, but that might be your why. Cold calling is one of the tools that enables you to do it.
Right. The passion isn't picking up the phone and calling people or interrupting their day. The passion is knowing that what you can do for them is so big in their life that you can't wait to tell them about it.
Right. I'll make a key point on that confidence that you mentioned. So you've mentioned two things. So you got to have emotional intelligence, and you say that's coming from confidence and passion. Your confidence comes from your preparation, which comes from your training. So a lot of times you're not going to drive confidence by your why. And I think that's a common mistake people think, is that your confidence, that's going to come because I'm so motivated to accomplish my why. Your confidence doesn't usually come from that. Your drive and your passion comes from that. Your willingness to do something comes from that. Your confidence comes from your preparation, your understanding of the game. Tom Brady, his confidence does not come from his love for football. His confidence comes from his preparation in the film room.
Funny, your love for football is what leads to your desire to prepare.
Yes,
to
there
go
you
to
go.
practice every day, and then that
Correct.
what ultimately drives your confidence as you get better and you prepare more.
Yeah, so if you're not confident, prepare.
Right.
And that's the only theme you get out of this whole podcast. It's worth it. If you're not confident, go back to the books, start practicing, start preparing.
Right. Make sure you know what you're doing when you're getting the call, because really the last thing you want to make sure you're doing when you get somebody on the phone that's a stranger, you got to be respectful. Right? And if you're not prepared and you don't know what your boundaries are, you don't know what the limits are, you don't understand that you could be catching them in the middle of something. They could have just had something bad happen in their life right now, and you're
Can I ask you something? Where's the funniest place you've ever caught somebody?
I mean, people have answered the phone in the bathroom, and that's always an awkward
on the
one.
toilet.
What's even more awkward is when they want to keep talking to you, right? and then you're like,
I've actually got someone. I've got someone that just came out of the shower and was like, "I got to get dressed," and I'm like, "Wait a second, are you standing here naked talking to me right now?"
Yeah, no,
you can catch people at pretty awkward times, but anyways, keep going.
No, I mean, you need to be respectful of what's going on. They know that it's a sales call. They know that what your ultimate goal is to make a sale right there, and so you have to respect that dynamic. You have to respect that you don't know what's going on in their life because you don't know what's going on in their life, right? And at the end of the day, they're just seeing you as somebody that might be trying to take money from them.
Yes.
So what you got to get to as soon as you can, really, and this kind of starts to lead us maybe into making that phone call and how you tell your script a little bit, is you got to get that pop right away. You got to let them know why you're calling. You got to let them know what's in it for them right away. It's not time in the beginning to chit chat about the weather or what's going on in their life.
That comes from lack of confidence.
What's that?
Chit-chatting about the weather,
right,
chit-chatting
exactly.
about how's your day.
They know why you're calling.
Open up and
right.
Yeah, correct.
And that's not going to happen. They know why you're calling, and that winds up being what really kills most reps in the beginning is, hey, how's it going? How's the weather here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's time to build rapport as you start to go through this sales process and get to know what really matters for the prospect. In the beginning, it's making sure you're prepared, making sure you're practicing, you know what you're doing, getting excited, sounding upbeat, being passionate about what you're there to offer the prospect, and then ultimately being respectful of the dynamics that are going on and the interplay between you and them right there, getting to the point and telling them how you can help them right away.
It's a conscious choice to get excited.
Yeah.
What so many people, what they don't understand with like successful people, and this is why Tony Robbins is so popular. If you go to a Tony Robbins conference, you'll see this immediately. He talks about energy and that you can change your feelings and you can change your state by literally movement and getting excited. Our team of 65 callers does a morning meeting every single day. It's a conscious decision that we are going to consciously choose to be excited today, to remind ourselves of our why, to remind ourselves of how we're helping people and what we're doing. And that is a conscious choice. It's not something that you're just going to feel every morning when your feet hit the floor.
And let me ask you, do we have bad morning meetings at times?
All the time we have bad
morning
morning
meetings. And what happens
on
a sales day like that?
And we have low sales days.
And so
they correlate to low sales days.
100%
correct.
Correlated.
It's a conscious choice. Yeah. I think the key point that you're touching on that I don't want us to gloss over, that I want to make sure everybody understands who's watching this, is you talk about respect. And this really comes back to the core of every sale. So the phone and cold calling is a tool. It's a way to generate sales for your business. The key to sales is built on relationships. It is built on this idea of people knowing you, liking you, trusting you. Do you tend to trust people that don't show you respect? Do you tend to like people that don't show you respect? You don't. You might get known by calling people all the time, but if you don't have a respect for the context of how you're reaching out or the frame of mind that someone that you're calling might be in, or a respect for what they're going through and their pain points in their business and what they're up against, you'll never close that deal because you'll never get engagement and you'll never be liked and you'll never be trusted. And I think this is a great transition into the second key thing you need to do when you're prepping to get on the phone. The first is you got to set your mindset, which is what you're talking about. You got to have emotional intelligence and get yourself to understand of who you're calling. But then you got to create a script to match who you're calling and what you're trying to accomplish in putting together a script. So I don't know, Nick, if you have any thoughts for people that when they're putting together a script, how should they think about it? What are some of the things that we found in putting together a script? But I think the second main thing before you jump on the phone is make sure you have a script that you know what you're going to say.
Right. I always have thoughts.
Yes.
I have tons of thoughts right here. So I always have thoughts. I think most people kind of go into it, and what they'll do is they'll lay it out and go, this is exactly what I'm going to do on every call. And your script evolves over time as you learn, as the industry changes, as prospects' needs change. And so your script is never set in stone. It's always got to be flexible and malleable, and you got to be able to adapt because, especially too, every prospect's different. So what's important to one person isn't important to another. But I think that's where you got to start. You got to start with what's important to your prospects, right? That comes from, like you talked about earlier, being prepared, right? What is the industry you're helping them in? Who are you selling to? What really matters to them? What are their pain points? What do they struggle with every day? And then whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whatever it is, how does that apply to their day-to-day, right?
And understand, guys, that a generalist is always statistically outsold by a specialist.
Right.
So I'll say that again. A generalist is always outsold by a specialist. So what that means is if you know the industry you're calling, the language, the pain points, how they, like what their desires are, what they're trying to accomplish, you will always outsell a generalist who's just speaking in generic terms, who doesn't truly have an understanding of what they're calling. Yeah. This is a big thing for B2B salespeople. If we have any B2B salespeople listening to this, you might find yourself like us calling 140 different industries. If you can specialize, like if I'm calling real estate, I better know real estate. I better know what a FSBO means. Mm-hmm. I better know what an expired listing means, because if I don't, you're going to be able to tell that right away. Mm-hmm. So a generalist will always be outsold by a specialist.
Because everybody wants to talk to an expert. You don't want to talk to somebody that kind of knows what.
And how do you become a specialist? By making sure you have a script that showcases you're a specialist, that you understand their pain points, you understand what they're going through.
Right. It sounds like such common knowledge to say, like, understand what your prospect's pain points are. But so many people make the mistake of going, here's our product, here's our service, here's what's awesome about it. And they want to talk about so much about what's awesome about the product, the cool features, the new stuff that they just did, updates to the software. They want to talk about all the different things that are included in their service pack. And they forget that that's all noise if it still doesn't hit home with what is it going to actually do for them at the end of the day. And so really what you want to focus on is that, the prospects, whatever you're selling to, everybody's waking up out there. And if they're a prospect in your industry, that person that's waking up, they have hopes, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they have fears. And what you really have to do is not play on them, you have to understand them and how you're going to help them through those time periods right there. And so when you start going off into the product and services and all those good things, bells and whistles, right? You always gave the example back in training classes when you used to do that, decades ago.
Yeah, decades ago.
Like you used to say, you don't go to the car dealership to buy you don't go for the CD player or the moonroof.
Correct.
You don't go for the leather seats. You go because you need to buy a car to get from point A to B.
Yep, that's the pain point.
The bells and whistles are the nice to haves, right? You get a nice luxury car because you want the emblem on it. But really, you need the car to get to point A from B.
Correct.
So I think really understanding what's the ultimate goal of your prospect, where are they at point A, and where are they trying to get to with point B is really what you got to hone in on your script right there.
So it's like if you're a real estate agent listening to this right now and you're calling FSBOs, you got to understand, like, when you're developing your script to go after FSBOs, you got to understand you're developing a script to what's the true pain point of the FSBO? Why is someone listing their house to sell it by themselves? When you think about it logically, there's a couple reasons. They don't have a trust in a realtor. They don't think what you do actually provides value. They think they had a bad experience. Right. They think you just put a sign in the yard. They think you just maybe put it on internet sites.
Right.
The truth is they feel they can do the same as you. That's one pain point.
Yep.
Second pain point is they don't want to pay you the 3% commission.
It's money. Yep.
Right? So it's money. So as you start looking and thinking about your call, I'm about to make FSBO calls. Well, when you develop your script, start making sure you break down that pain point so then you don't come directly in and say, hey, this is not what I know you're feeling as a FSBO and this is how I'm going to, attack it. You don't come directly in and say that, but you know now what you're trying to sell against or what you're trying to combat and trying to prove to them what you can bring to the table. And how you do that is you've got to get them to admit in your script that's what they're feeling. And a lot of real estate agents, especially if you look online and you look at the scripts out there, how do you get them to admit this? Well, it's called the discovery phase in your script. You start asking questions of, hey, I saw that you listed your house at 1100 First Avenue. I have a ton of buyers and sellers that I work with in the area. I was just calling to figure out how I could help you. And then you go in, you're offering your services. They're going to say, well, if you have any buyers, bring them. Don't lie. Don't ever lie in your scripts and say you have buyers, so I'm just going to state that right now. Don't lie in your scripts. But then you go in and you start going, hey, perfect. Hey, let me ask you this. What made you actually decide to list your home on your own versus using a real estate agent? Get them to self-admit to you, hey, when you sell your home, where are you looking to move?
Right.
Get them to start admitting to you what their pains are and what their... that's the key when you're developing a script is you want to develop scripts that you know where it is. Yeah. You know it's money. You know it's a bad experience. You know they don't trust a realtor. Yeah. But you want to get them to admit it in your script and build a script that gets them to admit it and then start selling.
To identify the pain points also, I know we had a above the noise video on this where we actually spoke about call them on a Monday after the weekend.
Yes,
when
that's
it's
a great
for
tactic.
sale by owner.
Yeah.
Because the question becomes, hey, just seeing, I know you have you're selling your house. I know you had it listed. You had showings over the weekend, or you had
showings.
it. How many people did you get to
Right.
come by and look at your house?
Yep.
And so obviously, like the goal there, you want to have them say like none. So you're identifying them at the moment where they're experiencing
Pain.
the lack of value that you could bring to their
great
their
point.
situation.
And that goes back into the preparation work.
And that's the
Understanding
preparation.
your
That's
consumer.
putting the strategy
And the
together.
ultimate goal in that scenario, just tied together, is somebody's selling their home so they can get a check. They want equity, the most
Correct.
amount of equity as possible in their home. that
And they want
can
to-
get.
in
And so
time,
when they
and they want to move
realize
as fast
that
as possible.
FSBOs sell for X% less than when an agent sells it. That's ultimately what
I think
matters
it's
to
like
somebody.
nationwide. I
So
think
if
it's
you're looking for
30%.
anyone
It's
to
around
help
30%.
call your FSBO leads, let us know.
We've got about
I think
65
Luke
callers.
and Nick are
that,
available for hire.
So let's say you're putting together your script, though, right?
Yes.
So after you put together your script, before your call, and this is going to sound super simplistic, but this is what we have to continue to ingrain in our reps, is you have to practice your script. You have to ingrain your script.
How do you guys do that? I know we role play a lot.
Yep, we role play a ton. So maybe if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram because I'm filming our morning meetings a lot, right? And so we role play at certain morning meetings, and the callers are tagging up with each
So
other.
much fun to watch.
Correct.
So much fun to watch. They get so into it.
Right. So you got to practice role play. I think, one rep that we had that's no longer with us right now, but one of the things she taught us is she had a mirror.
Yeah.
In front of her face.
On
and
the
she
desk.
would on her desk.
Right.
And she would role play and then pitch in front of the mirror. And you can do this on live calls. It's beautiful to pitch in front of a mirror because what? Only 7% of communication is verbal?
What you say. The words you say.
The words you say.
The rest
So-
is how you say it and how you look.
Tone,
The
inflection,
nonverbal communication.
radio DJs smile when they're talking because they know I should smile.
We
right
should
now. I'm
smile
smiling.
with the phone.
Can you
Don't
tell
start
I'm
smiling.
smiling
Yep.
right now?
Yep.
No. But the point being is people can sense it. They can hear it. You guys can hear it as you're listening to this podcast. You can hear when I'm frustrated or you can hear when I'm passionate or something like that because of my facial expressions, how I carry myself. Tony Robbins at the conference did an amazing thing where he said, go around and act negative to people. And everybody who went around and acted negative, they lowered their shoulders. They talked more like this. Like we all physically acted negative.
Yeah.
It's very interesting
You didn't choose to
psychology-wise.
say negative things.
Correct.
You automatically went to the
Body
nonverbal,
language, to the
body
non.
language, right.
So what's the point tying back to the cold call? The point is practice your cold call. One of the things that helped me the most before I got on the phones is I recorded myself on video. I recorded myself giving the pitch. I wish I could
You were born
find
for this job,
dude.
man.
I wish I could find those videos. They would be hilarious. Me
We're
practicing
holding them
the
to
pitch.
blackmail you.
Yes, I want to
Someday.
find them, but me practicing the pitch and just on video because when I hear it back, when you hear yourself back, if you ever heard a recording of your voice, you know how you say you hate it? Everybody does. But when you hear it back, you start understanding how people are perceiving you. So
Right.
you have to practice your pitch. Here's another key is no actor, and I say this all the time to guys when I'm training them, no actor won an Academy Award or any award for acting by just reciting the lines. They won this award because they took the lines, they made it their own, they infused their personality and their emotions into it. And that's what got them to win that award. Yep. When you're getting on the phone, if let's say Kevin Ward, I love that guy, man. He's a great real estate coach and trainer. You can find scripts online that he offers for free. So if you're a real estate agent looking for scripts, he has great ones. You won't win FSBOs, expired listings, referrals by just reading his scripts. You won't. But if you take them, make them your own, infuse your personality into it, that's what's going to generate the success. But that only comes from what? Repetition. It takes 10,000 hours to master
10,000
something,
hours.
right? So repetition. If you just keep practicing, then all of a sudden your confidence grows. Because you know exactly what to say. I remember I don't know if you remember this at all. We would be talking to people. This is terrible to say probably on a live, but I'm going to say it anyways. We would get and say the same thing over and over again all day long. 150 people, 200 people. I could get to the point on a phone call where I could literally put it on mute. This is terrible. I shouldn't say this, but put it on mute. Not even listen to what the person's telling me on the other end of the phone. I've heard it so many times. I knew exactly what they were probably saying, and I knew exactly where to go. Like you could literally, get to the point
I would
where
say it in my sleep when I started.
you know every pathway. That's so much. You know every objection. You know everything that they're going to say, and you have a pathway to go. And you never want to lose the human connection, so you don't want to become where you're doing that, that's a really bad thing to do. But the point being is you need to know it that well. Right. So when you're practicing your script, you need to know it that well.
Yep. And I think the best reps are hard on themselves. You know, the best reps know that it's okay to cut corners. It's really hard work to get out there every day if you're a baseball player and like field ground balls.
Correct.
Seems so routine. You've been doing your whole life, but there's a reason in practice you field ground balls before the game every single day. And so for our reps, Josh, you asked, you know, how do we get them to do it? They seem like they're having fun, but part of that is like, you got to be honest. You got to be honest. If you have sales reps out there, if you are a real estate agent or, you know, you're a financial advisor, whatever, and you have an inside team and they're not doing calls the right way, don't be scared to get generic with them and break it down from the beginning and go and explain, why are we saying this in the pitch? Why are we going over this? And then practice it every day, because what's going to happen is you're going to practice it this week, you're going to get in the groove, and you're going to forget it 3 weeks later. And you're going to need to re-practice it again. And so really being hard on yourself and knowing that that wasn't the best pitch, I could have done better, or if you do have reps or somebody in the cubicle next to you.
Well, and if you're not training people making the calls, you're the one, this is your business. Be hard on yourself. Ask yourself the hard questions.
Yes.
Why am I making this call? Why am I saying this thing?
Right.
Once you have your script written down, then that's the time to really go back through it and analyze it almost from a third person's perspective. Put yourself in the listener's shoes, the person on the other end of the phone, and kind of figure out, okay, why are they saying this right here, and is it connecting? So we talked a lot about before the call, what to do to prepare. How about actually making the calls? I know that in our business, and this is across the board in sales, it's absolutely a numbers game, and there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot more opportunity in the follow-up than necessarily that first call. So why don't you walk us through kind of...
I thought we were just talking theory. I'm not prepared. No,
have the numbers
no,
for
I think for cold calling, for any sale, you know, it really comes down to what's your conversion rate. And for people out there that convert 100%, we were at a conference recently, and the vendors next to us said that they will convert on 76% of their leads. And that was like, whoa.
That was incredible.
And our reps, I mean, they're not converting as a high right there, but still at that point, you're still losing 24% of everything that comes through your door. And so I think the biggest thing going into it is knowing it's just part of the process. I just got to feel
You're going to lose 90% of the time.
You're going to lose a ton of the time. And so even when we talk prep, practicing your script isn't prep. That emotional intelligence, going back to it, and the mindset of going, I just got rejected. I just got hung up on. Somebody didn't believe in what I believe in. How do I pick up the phone and make that next phone call? That is just critical to being not just to be a
that's
mediocre
success
rep.
right there. That's
You've got to be able to push through that right there. And so you got to play your numbers game. You got to know ultimately what happens. You got to look at your numbers too as a rep or as a manager, and you got to see if there's a dip in the numbers. Are you doing something differently? So really knowing the statistics that play into where your leads are coming from, how many you should convert, how many calls you have to make to a prospect to get them to a certain stage in your process.
The reason why you want to do that, so you guys know, is so you can continue on when you face the rejection.
Right.
When you go out there and you door knock, or you go out there and you pick up the phone and you cold call, 90% of the time it's rejection, right? There's this saying, embrace the no. I think it's critical. You got to embrace the no. Every no is a building block to your yes, right? So, but the point being is this, is that when you know your conversion rates, you're not just in the abyss, in the swamp of rejection, because you know I need 90 no's to get to that yes.
Yeah.
It's literally like you can get literally like a penny jar of your conversion rate, and every time you get a no, just take that penny out and put it in the other jar, and you're paying yourself because you know that if I get 100 no's, I'm bound to get that one yes, right? And so you're taking the penny out, you're putting it in the other jar, and you got to learn to just pay yourself that way, psychologically learning to embrace that no and go, the conversion rate is critical because it's my guiding light. I'm not lost. I know it's going to take me 90 steps to get this now next yes. And so I want to get to that next yes as fast as possible. So I'm going to pick up that phone and call.
Yeah, and the cool part is you can actually then track your progress.
Correct.
Because if you know it takes you 90 calls to get to the yes, and you're continuing to perfect your script, and you're getting those hours in, the next, maybe in a month, it'll take you 85 calls to get to the yes.
Correct.
Maybe in 6 months, it'll take you 80 calls to get to the yes. And you can literally start to see your progress as a salesperson by just tracking your numbers.
Correct. Yep. The second thing I would say when you're making the calls, first principle that you're talking about, which I think is critical, is you have to play the numbers game. Second is you have to understand the monies and the follow-up. You have to realize that with your leads, even your cold calling, I promise you, if I asked you guys right now, if I took your database of people, your leads, and saw how many times you called them, would you be ashamed? And I bet you would. Because the average rep is only calling 1.2 times to a lead. 50% of leads don't even get called. 50% of leads don't even get called. And it stems from the fear, which stems from the lack of preparation and all that good stuff. But the key, guys, is to understand.
That's from the lack of organization. I don't think it's fear.
Well,
I think that's not being organized.
It's actually a good point. It could be that you don't have the systems in your business to actually hold you accountable, because accountability is key to driving anything.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is that if the average rep's calling 1.2 times, and we all know the statistics, there's 6 to 12 times, you have a 90% more chance to get that appointment. HubSpot came out with a stat that said 18 calls to close the deal. Understand that what you're up against when you go out and you cold call, no, you're going to have to call this FISBO. I think with Steven, we called like 9 times. 9 times. And it's not about harassing someone. It's not about annoying someone. You got to always add value. You got to always have a reason. You got to have those scripts prepared, those pathways prepared. But you're going to have to put in that work to follow up and follow up and follow up. So understand, when you make that cold call, if you call one time, it was pointless. You did waste your time, and you did just go through some pain for nothing. Yeah. But if you know that the fortune is truly in the follow-up, and I'm going to keep on this person and keep on this person because I give that acronym CAR. And this acronym is, the first phase is curiosity, annoyance, resentment, respect. CAR. Curiosity, annoyance, resentment, respect.
I've never heard that.
Dude, oh man, you got to listen more, man. Get this. This is gold right here. I'm going to say this on myself.
I think it's great.
The first phase someone goes through when you're cold calling them is the curious phase. Caller ID comes across. Who is this person? Why are they calling me? Maybe they push you to voicemail. They probably do 9 times out of 10. They're curious. A tip for you guys who are cold calling, it's called, Liz Kessler called it the sneak attack or something like that. Sneak is what she called it. It's the double dial technique. You have a chance of increasing your contact rate 18% by calling someone 2 times within 15 minutes. Because why? When you get a call from a number and then you immediately get that call again from that same number, what are you thinking? Oh my gosh, what is this? This must be important. So you pick up. They're curious though. They're in that curious phase. They listen to you, right? When people listen to you, whether you had a good pitch or not, and you set an appointment to follow up, you've moved into the annoyance phase. Because when you're cold calling, they're not necessarily thinking of you. You're coming to them presenting your product. So in this annoyance phase, when you try to get them back on the phone, it's not that they are mad at you. It's just, it's going to take their time. They have to think about it. It's on the pile of good ideas. It's on the pile of good ideas. Correct. Right. So you're trying to present your value proposition. Most reps give up in the annoyance phase. That's the 1.2 to 2 calls you make.
That's where they get the most resistance.
Because you feel like, oh, I talked to Josh, and I don't want to annoy him, and he feels annoyed because your parents taught you to be respectful. Good. Mom, I hope you're listening to this. I love that. You should be respectful to people. That's not what I'm saying. But top producers know. They know. I have to push past this annoyance phase, and the only reason I know I must is because the value that I have, that I can change this person's life if I can get them on the phone. This product will revolutionize this person's pain, or it will give them the greatest desire of their heart. Whatever it is, you got to have that why that backs it up to go to an even harder phase, which is the resentment phase. I'm telling you guys, if you don't believe me, man, if you get on the phone, start cold calling, you're gonna experience this. They literally will go to from annoyed, where they're kind of nice to you, to resent. They won't answer your phone calls, or they pick up and they go, I told you, don't call me back. I've had this happen, right? People are going to think I'm crazy listening to this. But the point is that I've had this. And then they move to the respect phase. If you give up at the resentment phase, dude, that is a terrible phase to give up, because you were annoying, and you didn't believe in your value proposition enough to keep pushing. If you keep pushing, this happened to me all the time on the phones. I bet you've had stories of this. I guarantee you all my reps could have testified to this. Is they go and they end up picking up. They end up finally having time, finally listening, because we didn't give up and we kept keeping in touch. And they tell me when I get the credit card or get the order or whatever it is, they tell me, Luke, I have to hand it to you, man. Your follow-up is amazing. I have such respect for what you're doing.
You're trying to hire our reps.
Correct. They turn around and offer you a job. Why? Because if you stopped at the resentment phase, it was all about you. Yep. It was all about you selling your product. If you don't stop because you know what you have, and guys, there's a fine line between harassment and obviously, cold calling somebody. So don't get me wrong there. Of course you can harass people. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you stop, then you didn't have anything but a sales pitch and a product. If you keep going, they're going to think this person must have something because they won't give up. And that's how much I believe in my product. I believe so much in my product that I'm going to keep calling somebody, keep keeping in touch, keep emailing them, because I know if they just give me one shot, if they give me one chance, I can help change their life because I've done it for 15 years and I have so many testimonies of people whose lives I've changed because of the things that we've done and implemented in our business. That's the conviction you got to have. So anyways, that's the CAR acronym.
I mean,
so you got to follow-ups in the money.
If somebody says follow up with me, I like it, and they're not pulling the trigger, and you give up, there's no point in even making that initial phone call.
Correct. Why'd
Like
you
if
call?
you're not going to go the distance with somebody and they're okay
that's
with
good.
you
Go the
following up,
distance.
there's a reason they won't buy. You can't whatever the objection is, you can't overcome it. If you're just going to stop, don't even bother calling prospects from the get-go. You got to think about too, you got to think about where we're at just 2018. Not to get into buyer psychology, but I am not an early adopter, and most people aren't. So most people are going to take so long to actually pull the trigger on something. There's a ton of options on there.
It's the fear of the unknown.
I have a backpack in my shopping cart on Amazon. It's been there for a year. And I just click on it every now and then and look at new. That's how people buy nowadays, right? They're doing a ton of research. So when you reach out to somebody, you just got to understand, it's just even the psychology of it. It's not that you're a good rep or a bad rep. It's that's how people make decisions. They think about it. They read reviews. They check out other options. They talk to their friends, right? They challenge you, right? And so you got to be okay with that. It's kind of like I was telling you before we started, one of the things that we do to coach reps is following up is it's like the first year of a relationship when you meet somebody, right?
This is a great analogy.
You meet your significant other, and for the first time, it's like you feel a little uncomfortable. That's the cold call. You're not sure what to do.
It's the first date.
You're trying to present your value proposition.
Yeah, well, here's my value. But you don't want to do too much. You don't want to overwhelm them. You can't let all the awesome things out about you in the first meeting, whether it's at a bar or wherever. You can't do that. So you got to that sales process is the first year of meeting your significant other right there, right? It's a courting process. It's the understanding. It's really trying to figure out who is who. How are you going to complement each other? What are the benefits of being together right there? And you got to be okay with trusting that process. There's a lot of people in our sale. It's a short sales cycle, right? So it's not uncommon for us to have somebody pick up the phone that might be familiar with us and 25, 30 minutes later
buy on that call.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to do it. I've seen it before, right? But there's a lot of people. I think our record's 72 calls. Right? And they bought, right? And that's, if you tell I need you to call me 72 times and I'll buy on the 72nd call, done. I'll call you 72 times.
We're willing to go to distance.
How often you want to call. So it's about really kind of making sure you understand that prospect, but that you're willing to put in the work, not just in the beginning, but over the long haul, because sales is an up and down game, lots of momentum swings. And if you're not going to put in the effort on the follow-up, then it doesn't even make sense to make the initial call.
I love that. If you're not willing to go to distance with a lead, why are you even calling that lead? That's a great point.
Thanks,
you could sum it up just in that. It's amazing. Assuming the close is the last thing I would say on making the calls.
Yes.
Because I know, man, we could talk about this all day.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about this all day. But assuming the close is probably the one thing in our business that I think separates. I'm going to give you guys the magic that I think separates ReminderMedia from so many other companies. Is that we are willing to ask for the order on every call. We're willing to assume that this person will want to buy from us on every call. See, I made this point to one of the people writing the ebook is said, if all you do is present, well, guess what? Teachers present. Mm-hmm. Pastors present. You're not really a salesperson at that point. You're just a presenter. Yeah. Meaning if all you're doing is showing up and giving a presentation, there's so many people that give presentations. Sales really begins when you ask for that order. When you ask for the order and you ask for the exchange of currency or the exchange of someone's value, right? That's when the sale truly begins because you're really asking for something. Because how many times have you guys experienced doing a listing presentation or pitching someone for insurance or a financial review or whatever, and you're giving them a great presentation and they're sitting there nodding at you, they're smiling, they're like, this is great stuff. Great stuff. And then all of a sudden you ask them to sign on the dotted line and all of a sudden all your great stuff went away. It's not great anymore. Mm-hmm. They literally are freaking out. They're like, because the sale didn't begin until you asked for the order, because that's when they actually had to step forward and make change and actually commit to something. So what is the magic? The magic is that we're willing to ask for the order on every call. We're willing to assume the close. We're willing to go for the order because we believe in what we're doing. And what that does for us is it bubbles up the objections, because if we can get the objections, we can get the true reasons why someone can't make a decision. All the other stuff is fluff. When people are nodding their head at you when you're giving your presentation, they're probably not asking truly what their doubts are in their mind or truly what they don't believe in the stats that you're showing.
The decision comes to...
When the decision has to be made, that's when they question the stats that you said.
Right.
That's when they question your marketing plan to sell their house.
Right.
That's when they question, is this insurance plan better than the competitor's insurance plan? The reason why you want to assume the close is not because you want to close people and push them in or something like that. No, it's because you want to have a real conversation.
Right.
You want to get to the vulnerability. Hey, let's be real with each other. My intention is I want you to buy this. I want you to buy this program. I want to sell your house, whatever it is. Then you can start having a real conversation. Well, in order to make that happen, what's your objections? What is it that I need to solve for you? How is it that I need to make you feel? How can I present my value proposition so you know I'm the right person for the job?
Yeah.
And that's why assuming the close is so critical, because when you ask for the order, it allows you to have a real conversation. Not that everything else is fake, but everything else just takes so much time.
Yeah, and I think so many people, immediately when you ask for somebody to do business, you ask for that business, things get uncomfortable. And so many reps out there, salespeople are just so uncomfortable living in the uncomfortable. And I think honestly, like
It's
if you
true.
think about the best reps, they don't have that kind of like social filter where they feel uncomfortable in situations or they're worried about what people think. I mean, if you talk to a prospect, whatever your sales cycle is, and now you're at the point where you should be asking for their business and you don't, you just wasted a ton of their time. You've told them everything I can do to change your business, your life, whatever it is, right? And at the end, you just don't have the backbone to go ask, right? The thing that you guys are saying, it's that fight or flight response. You know what I mean? It's like you want to make them make a decision right there.
Yeah.
And then you start to figure out what's happening. Are they really interested, right? There's a agent that I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. She's in Wilmington, North Carolina, Jessica Edwards. I remember in one video a while ago, she talked about buyers. She makes them sign a buyer's agreement before she even, because why? Because there's
She believes
so
in
many
value.
horror
Shows
stories
commitment,
of agents spending months and months showing people houses.
My realtor had a horror story with me. Months and months.
That's
Josh
the reason
was
she
a horror
started the
story.
agreements, right? Because of you.
I love the horror story.
That's how you know somebody's serious right
Yes.
now. And that's how you know if you're wasting
Well, I
their
think what
time right now or if they're ready or
What
not.
I'm hearing from you guys is like that's part of the respect. You're not doing it to be pushy. You're doing it because
Yes.
you respect the
Right.
person's time and you're looking for the opportunity to have that conversation with them that's going to make them actually consider this.
You're looking for
I
the
have
real
had
issues.
so many, because as you're even talking about this, I'm thinking back on experiences that I've had with sales reps, contacting me for B2B or product for our company, and how many people just end the conversation with no action item or no ask or anything like that.
Back.
Yeah, and then it's just left, and then I just get a bunch of emails from them, like, I don't really know. I don't know what the next thing is. They didn't ask me if I wanted to sign up. I'm not really sure where to go from here. Guys, buyers have to be asked. You have to ask them for the sale. No one's going to start throwing money at anybody in this world, unless you're Apple. Maybe I guess Apple gets a lot of money thrown at them.
or Amazon
gets a ton of money thrown at them.
Everybody buys Amazon. The point is, you can start having a real conversation.
Right.
It's not until you ask them to sign the listing agreement that what happens. It starts getting really real, and you have to you have to do it respectfully. You have to build your value. You have to showcase what you've done. You can't do it. You can't just walk in and say, "Hey, I want to list your home. Here's to start the conversation." That's not what we're saying. But the point being is, don't leave your conversation just giving a presentation because you're just a teacher.
And can I just say one thing? This is really where your integrity as a rep comes into question. Most reps go, I put in so much work, you should buy. And so a lot of times when the prospect says no or need to think about it, then it's like, well, why? And they get aggressive or they get passive aggressive and don't think that that's aggressive right there, right? At this point, this is the point where you're going to show the prospect
your value,
how hard you're willing to work for their business,
your value.
what you really have, how much you believe. And if you take that personally as an insult, if you're mad at them, I'm telling you, it's going to shine through. You're going to ruin the whole deal. They're never going to want to do business with you because at that point they go, oh, it was all facade.
That
it
should
was
be
all for nothing.
The objections should be the best.
This is your moment to shine.
Best part of the call. It should be like, this is what it's all about. What can I answer your questions? What is it that's holding you back that I can present to you why that shouldn't be an issue, or what I can do to overcome that issue, or what I can offer? We're going to have to break this ebook up into 2 podcasts, man. We have 2 more sections, so we're going to have to break it up into another one.
We can tease a little bit of the rest of the ebook by saying you have to come back and download the ebook. But let's talk about after the call real quick. Is there anything that you guys wanted to touch on?
That's assuming the close. Just
He assumed the close of the podcast.
I assume the close of the download. Yes. But is there any quick tips that you guys have after the call, following up, what the process looks like for keeping those people organized? I'm assuming after the call, this involves either they did not close on the call, or they closed that and now become a client of yours.
Go ahead, man. We both breathed at the same time.
No, I was going to say, there's
took a breath.
Every sales rep out there is going through the same thing regardless of what your sale is.
Yeah.
So I would say the more that you can, don't think you're always going to be an expert. So the more you can research, find techniques, find ways to overcome. I mean, I'm constantly looking at ways to overcome objections that we've had for the past, since we've been in business. And so I think the biggest thing that I go back to in the beginning is everything you do before you actually get on the phone is the biggest thing that you can do.
Sure.
Being prepared, being confident, understanding the dynamic of what's going on. I think the production that you see as a sales rep is going to depend on the production you put in before you make any phone call.
I would agree 100%. I think when you get off a phone call, use and I'm not saying do this right after your phone call, but you should be reflecting on what happened on that phone call and listening to yourself where you need to get better.
Is it a moment of reflection and considering what happened, or is it get to the next call?
So it's both. I think you can do both. Whatever you do, don't look.
Just reflect really fast.
Whatever you do, don't look at that dial button and just look at it and overthink it. Meaning, so many times, like when I'm making these calls, because we're calling the dentist industry right now. So any dentist listening to this, I want to talk to you. But the point being is that we're calling the dentist industry. When I get off a phone call after a conversation and I hit dial for the next and it's ringing, I'm reflecting on, hey, what happened? And I'm noting to myself. So the notes would be the key point that we as sales reps don't like being organized a lot of times. It's just not in our skill set to be super organized or detail oriented. So we don't take good notes. Mm-hmm. You need to take good notes, because if you don't take good notes, where will you fall down? Where you'll fall down is building the relationship. A relationship is people where you're known, where you're liked, where you're trusted. If someone said, sorry, can't talk right now, I'm taking my dog to the vet, and you don't put that in your notes, I mean, you've missed a golden opportunity when you follow up. Josh, hey man, following up. I know I talked to you last Tuesday. I know you're taking your dog to the vet, and what was going on? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Right? And having that, and hopefully you got the name of the dog and all that good stuff. But the point being is that take your notes after the call so you can, what Nick is saying, which
guys,
you can reflect.
That's the relationship part of your CRM.
It is. Yeah.
That's the relationship
That's
part.
everything. And so many people, we get so lazy in doing that stuff, but that's the key, because then you're starting to build that relationship. So you reflect, you take notes so you can reflect even more. And then with your call, you gotta set a plan for follow-up, and you gotta stick to that plan. It was amazing at the dental conference we went to on that. We were listening to the panel of office managers talk, and what was their biggest frustration? Reps did not call when they said they were going to call.
It was. Missed appointments, yeah.
If you are missing appointments in your business right now, you're listening to this, you've missed appointments, shame on you. I've done it before too, man. Shame on me. It's convicting to me. Don't miss your appointments. After the call, when are you following up? Make sure you mark that down and make that appointment, because you're only as good in this business as your word. And a simple thing like being a couple minutes late is everything. Could ruin the whole deal for you.
Absolutely. So there you have it, guys.
There you have it.
If you did not get some gold out of this podcast, I don't know. You better check your pulse.
Yep. And put your number, because we're going to call you. We're going to cold call you.
So thanks for listening this week. We really do appreciate it. If you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Please leave a comment. Share this with a friend. So if you enjoy the podcast, please share it with a friend. Let us know. It helps us get the word out there. It helps us connect with more people. More importantly, it helps us learn kind of what more you guys want to hear about and reach a wider audience there. So thanks so much for listening. Also, to get new episodes weekly, subscribe to stay paid in your favorite podcast player. Make sure to follow Reminder Media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all the socials. We also post weekly coaching videos on YouTube. You can search for Reminder Media and look for the Above the Noise series. Nick, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me, guys.
For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Acree, and I'm going to close with this action item, guys. Make 100 cold calls this week. I was thinking as we were going through this podcast, hey, what's the action item here? Is it developing your script?
You're cranking it up a notch.
Yeah, I am. Is it developing your script? Is it, practicing? All those are good, but they're kind of weak. The action item is make 100 cold calls this week. And I know some of you listening to this right now are going, in a big gulp, because that's hard. That's a really hard thing to do. Overcome your fears, make 100 cold calls this week, put into action these things that you're learning. In order to make those cold calls, you're going to have a script and those things, but do it. Do it this week. Make progress in your business. The cold call is one of the most unused tools on your tool belt. I guarantee it. It will blow up your business. It's blown up mine. Difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer is top producers take action. So take action on that today.